Do you ever feel like you were the karma in a relationship? Like the universe brought you and this person together just so you could teach them a lesson, and then they go on their healing journey and you're left wondering, well, what the heck was that for me? You're not alone. Hey everybody, I'm Mystic Brew, your favorite Lebanese mystic and astrologer, and this is Shadows of the Heart. As a certified coach in intuitive and a former dating columnist, I know all too well how our dating patterns can really reveal the shadows that we tend to hide or even be unconscious of. In this series, I'm meeting with various singles who find themselves dating the same types of people over and over again, or in the same types of relationship dynamics, and I come in to look at their birth chart, which is a cosmic snapshot of the sky the moment they were born, to see what the stars have to say about some hidden shadows when it comes to their habits and patterns, or maybe even limited beliefs with dating and relationships. In this session, you'll meet Geraldine. Geraldine is a Virgo sun, Capricorn moon, and Taurus rising. And I get it, you may have heard some things about those signs, the perfectionism, the criticism, the cold-heartedness, whatever. There's so much more to a chart than just the one sign. And so we really dive deep to see where the root of these habits and patterns come out to play. And for Geraldine, it's when it comes to her codependent relationships and her continuous role of being the healer or the fixer in her partnerships. Now, if that sounds familiar, stay tuned, because we're about to find out what shadows are lurking in Geraldine's chart. Hi, Geraldine. Welcome to Shadows of the Heart. I sent you your chart, and now I'm about to take a look myself, and we are going to dive in and see what we get. During casting, you mentioned that you can sometimes become a serial monogamist of some kind. You enter these long-term relationships, and sometimes you
Hmm.
feel trapped by the relationship once that
Yeah.
sort of honeymoon phase ends. And you also mentioned some people pleasing and some codependency. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's take a look at your chart. Have you seen your birth chart before?
I have. Yeah.
Okay. So do you feel like you're familiar with astrology lingo or kind of still like not really sure?
I'm somewhat familiar. I'm
Okay.
I'm learning new things every day, but yeah, I'm somewhat familiar
Yeah.
as to what some things mean. I know the different signs and the houses and how, you know, how the houses affect the signs and stuff like that.
Okay, very cool. Well, I say all that to say if at any point I'm sharing something and you're like, wait, I don't know what you're saying right now, just let me know and I will
Okay.
explain it differently.
Okay.
Um, so let's dive in. All right, you may or may not know that you are a Virgo sun, a Taurus rising, and a Capricorn moon. Now, we're going to touch on
Hmm.
a bunch of different aspects, but the first thing that like really just caught my eye, and maybe you already know this, you have a lot of stelliums.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
especially in Libra.
Yes.
So,
It's funny because I tend to attract a lot of Libra people as well. My
mm,
son's a Libra. Every relationship I've been in has some aspect of Libra. So I don't know, for whatever reason, Libra is somehow tied, I feel like, to a life lesson that I'm supposed to learn here.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, stelliums, and for those who don't know, a stellium is when you have sort of like a cluster of placements in one sign. So it's highly concentrated. So for
Mhm.
you, it would make sense that perhaps in this lifetime, Libra energy is one that you're being asked to master because you have a lot of energy in Libra. You have, including your vertex, you have one, two, three, four, five, six Libra placements. So yeah,
Mhm.
quite a bit. Not surprising that you attract a lot of Libras as well because they might be mirroring or reflecting back energy for you to acknowledge and embody in some way.
Mhm.
So let's talk about this Libra stellium in your sixth house. So overall, this can look like perhaps sometimes viewing relationships, which is a primary energy with Libra, as work because sixth house is work. So there can also be some perfectionism with love because of that mindset, because of that perception of
Mhm.
relationships, and also some overanalyzing when it comes to the romantic dynamics. So let's break it down a little bit. Because you have a Libra stellium, like I mentioned, focus for you in this life. Now, a
Mhm.
theory, who knows if it's true or not, but a theory is when you have a stellium in a sign, that means that you have perhaps mastered the sister sign, the opposing sign. And so now you're trying to master this sign. So for Libra, that would be Aries, which also makes sense because you don't have any Aries placements. So when it comes to individuality, asserting yourself, putting yourself in a sort of leadership role, even if you don't necessarily feel that now within yourself, it's energy that's in you that you've already mastered. And so now life is like, okay, great. You know how to do things by yourself. We're going to focus on doing things in partnership so that you can find the balance and equilibrium between those two.
That's
So,
interesting.
yeah, why?
Mhm. Since at a since a very young age, I've always been put in charge. I remember working at a Taco Bell, and all of a sudden I come in, and when I was like 16 years old, and they said that I was like the shift leader, and I'm just like, I don't I don't want to be a shift leader. Like, where did this come from? I did never expressed, this want to, but I've always been put in leadership positions everywhere I go without even seeking it out.
Yeah, it's that
Kind of
energy.
crazy. Yeah,
It
it's kind of
introduces
crazy.
you. Yeah, and you also have some significant Capricorn placements, which we'll get into, but there is just this feeling of authority that might be almost unconscious to you because it's so innate. Like it's just in the fabric of your being that you don't even recognize that you're doing it because it's so effortless and natural.
Yeah, it
So,
comes out of nowhere sometimes. Like everyone sees me as an authority figure for whatever reason, like someone to answer to, someone to explain themselves to. And I'm just like, like, where's this coming from? I don't know.
you're like, I don't
Yeah.
care. Like,
Yeah, I really, yeah.
so then do you feel like that happens in relationships too, where there's almost like a power imbalance within the partnership?
Yes.
Yeah. Which then can make you feel almost like a parent or a boss or a,
Yes. A caretaker or someone that they have to answer to, and that I'm trying to live a soft girl, feminine life. I don't want that. I want someone that I could do that. I don't want to be someone's uh drill sergeant or anything like that.
right. But you may
Mhm.
get placed in that role sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Mhm.
So, yeah, your stellium, your Libra stellium, which this energy feels tied to a couple different placements. So we'll take a look. But when it comes to your Libra stellium in the sixth house, again, the sixth house is work, it's the house of service. It's also the house of routine and self improvement. So, again, you got a lot
Mhm.
of energy in there that I think people pick up on and sometimes like Uno reverse it on you so that you become that person to help with their routines, their self
Mhm.
improvement, their work in whatever way that looks like. One thing to be mindful of, though, with this is there can be a tendency because the sixth house is naturally ruled by Virgo, which is ruled by
Mhm.
Mercury. There can be a tendency to intellectualize love, like really analyze, think about it, dissect
Mhm.
it, versus just allowing yourself to feel through it.
Mhm.
So that may also then lend to you feeling like relationships are work because now there's a lot of mental energy that you are investing into these relationships.
I definitely get very overwhelmed in
Yeah.
relationships. I feel just like it's too much, and sometimes I like when I feel that way, I just feel like running away because I'm just like, I can't handle this. It's way, way too much. I'm saying the wrong thing. I'm doing the wrong thing.
Mm,
And yeah, just, it could feel overwhelming.
yeah. And again, this attracts partners who require some sort of like fixing or guidance or some
Mm-hmm.
sort of structure in their lives, and they're looking to you to do that, which you're already a mother. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, thank you. I didn't sign up for
Yeah.
this. I didn't birth you. I'm not trying to do this. So again,
Right.
it's mental weight, it's emotional weight, and it's also that power imbalance that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So with this Libra stellium too in the sixth house, there's also, and it's, I'm spending time on it because, and we're going to dissect some of the placements in the stellium because you have your Venus and your Pluto in there. You have your Saturn in there, which Saturn in Libra is exalted, which means not only is it operating comfortably, it's amped up. So it's like,
Real well.
Saturn is the planet of discipline, maturity, authority,
Mm-hmm.
karma, justice. You know, so like all this is the volume is turned all the way up because it's in Libra. So that's another sort of point of energy that people might be picking up with you where you're like, I don't know what this is, but it's
Yeah.
in me. So they're picking it up.
Yeah, I've always been someone that everyone answers to, including my own mom, like someone that that they have to answer to,
Yeah.
and without even realizing where this is coming from. You know, I often get perceived as very judgmental also.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that get turned off and automatically that triggers them somehow, and they just automatically don't like me because they feel like I'm judging them.
Oh, preaching to the
Yeah.
choir. Yes, I
Mm,
get it. I also have very strong Saturnian energy in my chart. And so I
mhm,
get that a lot. People feel judged by me. People think I'm what,
mhm.
and listen, sometimes I am judging, you know, like it's
Yeah.
because there is, when Saturn is really prominent in your chart, there is sort of like, I call it like the Benjamin Button syndrome, where you
Mhm.
feel old right out the womb. And
Oh
so
yeah.
you kind of age backwards. And
Hmm.
from a young age, you tend to take on a lot of hardship and obstacles and challenges, which is in part kind of like refinement. There is a lot
Hmm.
of power within that that's being activated for you through these lessons. And yet, when it comes to relationships, it feels like a curse sometimes. It
Yeah.
feels unfair because you're not being seen and interacted with on a level playing field. And you never asked to be put in this pedestal or in this role, but people sort of assume that that's where you're meant
Hmm.
to be. And so it's unfair to you because you don't get to enjoy the experience of getting to know someone and
Right.
date. So I get it.
Yeah.
With
Mhm.
this as well, there is also with Libra, because Libra loves balance and harmony, and it's very diplomatic in that way. There can be a tendency to want that harmony, but also struggle with the emotional like messiness that can happen with relationships again because it's like such a heavy intellectual energy with the sixth house. So there might be points of like avoiding confrontation but internally feeling the weight of that. So there's like an imbalance, and sometimes it can be a little difficult to confront. So
Yeah. I definitely avoid confrontation at any cost. I don't. I'll agree with whoever or whatever they're saying. You know, whenever there's confrontation, just to kind of get it over with and to okay, you know, have your little victory. Just go away,
yeah.
please. Yeah.
Was that something that you experienced like in your household growing up or in your upbringing?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I had a very mentally unstable mom, and anything she said was right, and there was no use in arguing with her at all. So that's kind of a defense mechanism that I developed growing up.
Yeah. To just sort of like acquiesce. I don't want to deal with this. Fine.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah,
Fine. Okay.
yeah. Go away now.
Yeah, exactly. Which makes sense
Hmm.
and is unfair to you because now your needs are not being expressed, your perspective is not being shared, your boundaries are not being shared. And so, again, it's an imbalance, and the weight feels like it's being put on you, which again, it's tricky because the other person doesn't know what you don't tell them. And so
Mhm.
that's the work for you is to be like, okay, I'm safe. I can voice my concerns. I can let them know, hey, what you're feeling is valid and this is what's going on with me and how I'm seeing this. And there needs to be a bridge here to get like bridge the gap of this misunderstanding. But
Mhm.
with this sixth house energy, as you may already know, you attract partners who need saving or fixing in some way. So that's going to be top
Yes.
of mind of, you know, we all have our shit, right? Like we all have
Mhm.
stuff. It's not about finding the perfect person that they don't exist. The perfect person for you, sure,
Mhm.
but it's more about is this person seeking an actual partner or are they seeking an unpaid therapist? Are they seeking someone to do the emotional labor for them? Are they
An
seeking,
addiction counselor.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So attracting partners who need that sort of energy over analyzing relationships, leading to that emotional burnout that we were just talking about. And again, struggling with
Mhm.
boundaries with this. So, Libra energy in its lower octave or in its shadow state is difficulty with setting boundaries. It is that people pleasing that we talked about, that codependency in the beginning. It can almost teeter into enmeshment where if you're fine, I'm fine, which again makes me think back to mom, because if
Yeah.
mom was your sole environment at one point, it's like how you feel affects everything.
Mhm.
So I will sacrifice my needs and wants and my feelings to make
Mhm.
sure you're good. So I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
So with this, obviously, we're going to want emotional reciprocity. You want to
Mhm.
feel what you are giving and not always be the one who has to adjust to the other person's emotional waves, turmoil, whatever. Because your emotions matter as well, your needs matter as well, your overall well being matters.
Mhm.
So, learning to embrace that sort of emotional depth instead of just the logical part will help relationships feel less of an obligation because again it's not just about fixing the problem, it's feeling
Mhm.
into it. Okay, what's not being met for me, what's coming up for me, and then again the scary part, which is communicating that to the other person.
Yeah. Mhm.
So let's dive into this Libra stellium. I mentioned you have your Venus in Libra and your Pluto, and they're conjunct. So they are cozy up next to each other. And
Mhm.
so I would not be surprised. I mean, you already touched on it a little bit, but I would not be surprised if you have more often than not experienced really intense relationships that were also pretty transformative. So there may have been power struggles, deep emotional bonds, maybe even some obsession, control, manipulation, things of that nature.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Obsession on my part when looking back, they didn't really deserve that level of attention, I guess. So yeah, I know that like my Lilith is in like Scorpio, and that's like an energy there of obsession. Whenever I do get into a relationship, it's everything becomes about them and what are they doing and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there's like manipulative tendencies there, I guess, on my part.
Ooh, we're burping, which means we're releasing something. Your Black Moon Lilith is in Scorpio in the seventh house, no less, the house of partnership. So we're going to touch on that a little bit later. There
Hmm.
is, even with this Venus Pluto conjunction, that it's like these are magnetic soul level relationships. So you're not crazy for experiencing that level of intensity within these relationships. But again, power struggles, control issues, karmic sort of ties. There are deep soul lessons embedded in these relationships that perhaps in hindsight you may notice, or even in the act of getting to know this person and letting this relationship unfold, you may notice, oh shit, this is like triggering some really deep stuff for me.
Yeah.
This can also look like kind of like an all or nothing approach to love. Again, the
Mhm.
extremes. So it's either, okay, we're diving in completely, which again goes back to kind of what we talked about in the beginning. We're either
Mhm.
all in or completely emotionally detached because that
Mhm.
fear of vulnerability starts coming up a little bit. So again, there may be a pattern here of attracting intense, dominant, or maybe even like mysterious partners because now that
Mhm.
makes your brain feel good because you're like, ooh, I got to figure this out. Like, I
Mhm.
have to analyze this.
Mhm.
And at the same time, it brings deep transformation. So, possessive, controlling, obsessive partners, whether it's what comes up in you, what comes up in them, just what the relationship activates, fear of abandonment or betrayal as well, that can lead to the control. What?
Yeah.
Tell me.
I've definitely noticed with every relationship that I've been in that it's transformative for them, for them.
Mm,
Um, but for me, it's almost like I lost a piece of myself in
mm,
that relationship. So a piece of that, whatever piece that was, stayed with them, and it transformed them. And like just in, I guess, my last relationship, he's like seeking intense therapy for himself because like I let him know there, whenever I finally did blow up, I let him know all the things about himself that, and it was almost like, oh my gosh, and so now I hear from him every once in a while, and he lets me know that he's seen a lot of things and that he's seeking very intense therapy, personal therapy for himself to deal with things that, he didn't realize were issues.
mm-hmm.
And then even with my ex-husband, he's completely, it was almost like an ego death for him, and he's completely transformed himself as well. And yeah, so I feel like they're very, very, I leave that relationship very transformed for them. But for me, it's just, oh well, gotta move on, and I'm just kind
Mm,
of stuck in the same place. But that piece of me is missing.
mm. Which
Hmm.
sounds like can feel, I don't know if this is the right term, but it almost sounds like you feel used.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like they intentionally did it.
Right.
Um, but I gave too much. I gave too much of myself. I gave too much, and I don't feel resentment because um, at the time I know that they needed it. Um, so I don't feel that. I just feel a little empty, like a little bit empty.
Yeah.
Mm.
Feeling more used by the universe than the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky because sometimes, again, when I've witnessed it with my own life and then with
Mm-hmm.
others that I've done readings with who have that heavy Saturn energy as
Mm-hmm.
well, it is kind of that way. It feels like, okay, the universe keeps putting me in these situations where my intention is like, oh my gosh, like I'm excited. Like I just met this
Yeah.
person and they're so
Mm.
amazing and magnetic and this is so deep and what's about to happen and da, da, da.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
become a lesson for them or karma
Yes.
for them
Yeah.
in some way,
Mm-hmm.
which feels like shit for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I would challenge your belief that you walked away with nothing because I think there are things that you learned about yourself and things that you are also recognizing from those interactions with them. You mentioned some even in your explanation. You know, you felt like you were giving too much. That's good
Mm-hmm.
information. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In these situations, I tend to blank.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's
I
awareness.
definitely learned, yeah, I definitely learn a lot about myself
Yeah.
and through these relationships. Like, oh yeah, well, I gave too much in that one. Well, I wasn't very, um, I wasn't very open with this one, so I have issues with opening up. So, yeah, I definitely learn a lot about myself in relationships.
Yeah. It's more so the imbalance that then
Mm-hmm.
feels like because the outcome may not have been ideal. Like, well,
Mm-hmm.
what the hell did I get out of this? You know, I just
Mm-hmm.
went through this
Yeah.
tumultuous roller coaster
Yeah.
and they're growing, they're evolving, they're inspired. But again, I just want to know, like, from a spiritual lens, from a higher
Mm-hmm.
lens, even though it is never your job to do
Mm-hmm.
that work, we are all teachers for each other and we are all vessels for each other. And we don't know what sort of karmic debts or storylines or whatever is at play.
Mm-hmm.
Your ability to show up in the way that you do and what feels like showing up with full sort of like, I'm all in. Like, you don't, it doesn't feel like, how do I explain this? Your past experiences obviously affect you, but I don't feel like it affects you to the point where you give up on relationships. I think you always sort of, when one approaches or when the possibility of love approaches, you're always like, you know what, fuck it, let's see. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're down to try.
Mm-hmm.
That, especially with the experiences that you may have had, is a testament to the strength of your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that deserves some recognition and grace and compassion because that's really difficult to do. It would
Yeah.
be way easier to be like, absolutely not. I'm not dating anyone. I'm not looking at anyone. I don't want any parts in this. I'm shutting down. I'm closing myself off and I don't want to do this. But you're not. And unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
there may be some things that are playing out that we don't fully understand that can feel really defeating. But your resilience and your belief in partnership, in love, and again, what feels like an inner knowing of the type of partner that you deserve and want in your life, your ability to still hold on to that despite everything else that you have encountered and gone through is
Mm-hmm.
massive. So I know the empty feeling
Mm-hmm.
and also leaving room to admire and praise that part of yourself that's like, I'm not empty, actually. It's just a moment of feeling like, I don't understand this. Like, I don't understand the purpose of this. I don't understand why
Mm-hmm.
this person came into my life. I don't understand why this ended the way it did. I don't understand why I would fall in love with someone who ends up not being a part of my life in this way. And again, with that
Mm-hmm.
Venus Pluto, it's not just like, oh my gosh, they're cute. I like them, whatever. It's deep soul. It's almost like a recognition. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, makes sense to feel how you're feeling. And there may be bigger things at play that just don't make sense yet. But your
Mm-hmm.
ability to hold on to that, knowing that I know what love is, there's an innate remembrance of what love is that is really beautiful to see. So I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to honor that because I know how difficult this can be.
Yeah.
With Venus
Mm-hmm.
Pluto interaction in the chart, one thing that we have to learn through that is that intensity doesn't equate to love all the time. Intensity might be what we know, it might be what our nervous system recognizes. But
Mm-hmm.
again, healthy relationships don't need that power struggle to be meaningful. And working through those fears of abandonment that can come up with Pluto and betrayal can create a lot of trust within the partnership, which that's really what everyone's seeking is they want that trust within the
Mhm.
partnership. But anytime there's sort of like a Scorpio, Pluto influence, that fear of vulnerability where, okay, I know trust is necessary to have the relationship I want. And depending on your experiences, betrayal, neglect, control,
Mhm.
possessiveness, whatever, it can be really scary to open yourself up to even interacting and doing the things that would need to happen in order to build that trust. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that intensity is really, it feels like it was more luring you into some lessons when it came to love. And again, we'll look at some of these other placements that are at play because it was imbalanced. So again, it was showing you that Libra energy of, okay, are you allowing yourself to fall back into the same savior role that you tend to be in?
Mhm.
Or are you recognizing, like, okay, if I don't want to be this person's life coach or whatever else, I need to
Mhm.
stop putting myself in that position. And again,
Mhm.
when you love someone that deeply, it's hard not to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard when you see somebody, going towards a cliff to
Hmm.
not be like, hey, stop
Yeah.
that. It's really hard, especially when for whatever reason I've been blessed with a foresight of seeing where one's behaviors um makes them end up. Like I could see that in the forefront of my mind, and
Hmm.
it terrifies me sometimes, and it's hard not to be controlling in that way, I
Yeah.
guess.
I feel like it's that mama bear in you.
Hmm.
Yeah. And you're highly intuitive. You're a little witchy poo. Do you know that?
Yeah, I've been told it's something that my grandma and my mom they kind of dabbled in, but it's something that I kind of really stayed away from. Um, I kind of didn't want anything to do with it because I grew up seeing it, and I grew up with my mom and my grandma being kind of labeled as crazy, and so it's something that I try to I kind of distance myself from, but
Yeah.
um yeah, so yeah, it's something that I know is there, but I've kind of just ignored it. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Well, your intuition alone, and we'll talk about some of the markers of that, but I say all that to say your inner knowing is strong. You
Mm-hmm.
get those intuitive hits. Whether you trust what you get or not is dependent on the trust you have with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that feeling of, oh shit, I can see them going into a place of destruction or whatever. That makes sense. That's your intuition telling you. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
this is where it gets tricky and hard. And again, this is all generalized, so it's very situational. But for the purpose of this conversation, I'm generalizing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when we meet people and we get that ping of like, oh, they're going into touchy territory. Now, again, situational depends on what's happening. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to let go and trust that, like, this might be some of their karma that they need to go through and pull themselves out of. This is an initiation of some kind for them
Yeah.
because we don't know what people are carrying with them in this life. And we don't know what, again, karma people have. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we end up unintentionally taking that
Absorbing
karma
it.
on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because now we're getting in the way. And sometimes when we are being separated from people or God keeps sort of like pulling us away and we're stubborn and we're like, no, I love this person. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not giving up on them, which is usually you saying, I wish someone wouldn't have given up on me. So
Mhm.
now I'm going to show up the way I wish someone would have for me. It gets sticky because they still got to go through their shit. And now you are collateral damage. And so
Yeah.
you experience it. But again, it's trusting and knowing, like, again, we don't know the soul contracts that people have. We don't know the life lessons they need to experience. We don't know what their soul signed up for. And that's not to say to be negligent and just abandon the people that we love, but there's always a
Mhm.
point where you really got to ask yourself, is this now affecting my well being? If it is, it's time to figure out who's the priority here. And again, I'm generalizing, but in this case, I feel like you have grown up, including with what you shared with your mother, you have
Mhm.
grown up always feeling responsible for other people
Yeah.
to the point of neglecting yourself. And the
Mhm.
person that you really need is you. You need a you who is dependable, reliable, consistent, protective, all of these different things that you embody and exude with the people that you love. The one person who loves you and is waiting for you to be like, but do that with me is you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that looks like setting those boundaries with the people we're closest to because now who else is going to do that for you?
Mhm.
So, speaking of that, your Libra Saturn is also conjunct your Libra Mercury. So, what can this look like when it comes to communication? Being overly cautious about the way that you speak, struggles with vulnerability sometimes, because again, Saturn can be restricted. And so, with
Mhm.
it next to Mercury, the energies are sort of merging. And
Mhm.
this can also look like over analyzing your emotions again, because it's just like so fixated on, ooh, okay, love that. It makes communication very thoughtful and structured. Like you're not someone who impulsively, well, maybe sometimes, who knows, but usually you really try to think about what you're saying. And
Yes.
I feel like, funny enough, that goes back to your magic because I think that you, whether you consciously realize it or not, have a lot of power with your voice
Mhm.
on either end, meaning when you are seeing red and you're pissed off, exactly.
Mhm.
I know that face.
Yeah. Yes.
So there's a part of you that's like, it takes a lot for me to get there. But if I
Mhm.
get there, run and
I'll send
hide.
you into therapy.
Exactly. I mean, there is
Yeah.
evidence. Yes.
Yeah.
So you're able to, and again, this is paired with your intuition. You're able to see things that others don't. You can see into people. You can see the trajectory of if you continue on this path. So again, in a way, not saying it's fair or ideal, but you're kind of like this divine warrior that comes into people's lives as sort of like karmic retribution or almost like a fork in the road for them on their journey of like, hey, guess what? This is what's going on. And other people may not call you on it, but I will. And now you have a
Mhm.
choice to make. Do you want to
Mhm.
continue down the path you've always been down, or are you willing to go a different way? What's beautiful is from what you've shared, it sounds like you really implemented wisdom for them to choose a different path.
Mhm.
That's a very powerful thing. And again, I know the feeling of, well, what the fuck? What about me? But trust
Mhm.
and know when it comes to Saturn, your efforts and your consistency in always showing up and being called to do the things that may not be easy to do don't go unnoticed.
Mhm.
So,
It's very difficult because also on the flip of the coin is the people that don't choose the right way, and I've warned them, like, and I've told them about themselves, and they continue down the path. I lose them. I lose them in my life because, and then they end up resenting me for, for it,
Yeah.
because I have, there's a lot of people that I've lost, a lot of family members that I've lost because I don't agree with whatever path they're on, um and I've ended up losing them. That that's really hard as well.
It is hard and a perspective shift.
Hmm.
The right choice is whatever the person chooses to do.
Hmm.
So that's the lesson for us in releasing control. We don't know what's right or wrong for other people because we
Right.
don't know their trajectory. We don't know what they're being asked to do or called to do, or if they're even meant to go into those lessons in this lifetime. We just don't know what that is. So that's a lesson for us.
Hmm.
Losing someone, and again, I understand the pain that can come with that. And at the same time, it feels like it's more about the fact that you don't bullshit and you end up becoming a mirror to the things that they continuously try to hide from.
Hmm.
So it's, yes, a loss in some, to some extent, but it's more about the fear of being around you. That resentment is not about you as a person. It is their anger for the fact that you will not fall in line and let them play the game that they want to play.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, releasing that burden of, not to say it doesn't feel like shit again, because you got to deal with that. And that's why this type of energy can be so hard to carry because it makes you feel like, why can't I just chill? Like, why can't it just be easy? And not to say it can't be, but again, you also don't know the karmic lessons and people that you are meant to meet and what's supposed to unfold and happen. But you may internalize that and take it personal and carry that weight of that because it can feel personal sometimes.
Hmm.
So, releasing that guilt and perhaps even shame of being who you are. That's just who you are. You're with the shits in the sense
Hmm.
that you're going to call it like you see it because you
Hmm.
are the embodiment of truth. And a lot of people don't like the truth.
Yeah.
So it can be difficult sometimes. But again, the lesson for you now is, all right, I can see what's going on over here and call it out and whatever, but am I doing that with myself?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
with this placement, it can be self critical, which again, I feel like perhaps you blame yourself for some things that are not your fault. There can also be a fear of expressing your needs in relationships with this, which we touched on a little earlier. Bottling up your emotions, because again, there's that fear of what might happen, or only communicating when it's absolutely necessary, which is when it can be a little explosive. So,
Hmm.
part of this is, if you want that harmony and balance, it's not about, okay, I'll just take it, like I'm going to just
Hmm.
whatever, because again, the people pleasing, what we talked about earlier, like, okay, you're right, it's fine, da, da, da. But that's affecting you and it's affecting the relationship because it doesn't just go away. It doesn't
Hmm.
fly. You tucked it in somewhere. And then at some
Yeah.
point, it builds up, builds up, builds up. And then one little thing, doesn't matter what it is, once you hit your
Hmm.
boiling point, it's like, boom, now it's all coming out. Which again can be unfair to the partner because it's like, well, dang, I didn't know this was all like, and
Yeah.
it can kind of feel like a setup,
Yeah.
which again was not the intention. It was just a fear of expressing yourself.
I don't feel like it's necessarily a fear. I think it stems back to my mom, where it was just burying, it was like burying my feelings. So at the time, I don't necessarily know how I feel or acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
that there is a need there, because it's like just years of bearing things. So at the time, I might not necessarily acknowledge that there is a need for me to that there is this need, but it's there. It's there, subconsciously it's there. So because I'm very good at advocating for myself, and once I realize that there's an issue, I probably go a little bit overboard because it is that energy that's been kind of just bottled up and just kind of brewing under the surface. So it's not necessarily that I'm like not saying anything. It's just that it's not registering for me in my head that, oh, this is like a boundary that they're crossing, or
Yeah.
there's this need that I have, because I'm just so used to putting my needs like, oh, that's just Geraldine. She, it doesn't matter what she wants,
Right.
that was the kind of attitude that my mom had towards me. Like,
Mhm.
so I might not necessarily acknowledge that need or realize that there is a need there for me until I really internalize it and think about it, and it keeps happening again, 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 so
Yeah.
I guess that's where the blow up comes from, because I'm just like, I'm connecting the dots, and it might feel for them like it's out of nowhere. And for me too, it might feel like it's out of nowhere, because once I've had enough, all this stuff starts coming up, and that's where I say I learn things about myself in relationships, like, oh, I don't like that, I didn't know that I didn't like that, and now I
Right.
know that.
Hmm. Well, all of that makes sense. And I appreciate you sharing that because that is codependency.
Mm-hmm.
Your needs were not a priority, and you learned that your needs were dependent on whether or not someone else's needs were being met.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it's hard to tell what you're feeling and what your needs are because you were never taught to even know how to figure that
Mm-hmm.
out. You never had experiences where that was a priority.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was always about someone else's needs. And that codependency, which I like to mention when it comes up because people, it's a word that people know, but I don't think we always understand how deep it can go and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that it's a form of an addiction. And
Mm-hmm.
so codependent behavior is again this addiction of having to fix, having to be the savior, having to, because it feels like I'm only safe when I do that. And you take on that role as well. It becomes your identity. So if I'm not the fixer, if I'm not the one making sure everyone is good, then who am I? I don't know. Like there's a certain, and again, it happens with many identities, becoming a mother, becoming a partner, whatever. It's like these are all hats that we wear that we forget about the person who's wearing the hat. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really about getting back to self and remembering, like, okay, all of these were experiences. I learned from them. They were lessons, but it's not a life sentence if I don't want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when we are healing that, it does. It takes time before we're like, oh shit, that actually did not sit well with me. And I do have
Mm-hmm.
feelings. And sometimes it does take a little longer to process certain things, especially if we are in the head because the body is disconnected. And so the
Mm-hmm.
information, the wisdom, our ability to feel in our body like, hey, this is a boundary, this is a violation, especially if we were not taught how to hold anger.
Mm-hmm.
Anger is a great marker of there's a violation, a boundary was
Mm-hmm.
crossed. But if you were taught growing up or were raised in an environment, a culture, a religious community, whatever, where it was like, that's not allowed. Don't,
Mm-hmm.
that's doing too much. You learn to bypass, to neglect, to dismiss all of
Mm-hmm.
your body telling you something's going on and it needs your attention. So then you get in your head and you do mental gymnastics to try
Mm-hmm.
and figure out what's going on. And usually, because we're in the head, our subconscious is taking over. and it loves repetition. So it will concoct whatever story necessary so that you do the same thing you've always done because that feels safe because it's predictable.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Whew. This is good. This is
Yeah.
good. This
Yeah.
is
I feel like I'm getting a little bit more in this session than in like my last 20 to 15 to 20 years of therapy, because I've
oh,
been in therapy for a really long time, and it a lot of these things I tell my therapist, and I know I do have codependency tendencies, but you know it's always it's it's just kind of going around in circles and stuff like that, and this explains more of why I'm the way I am, I guess. I don't
maybe, yeah. I always like to tell people that these types of readings, utilizing your birth chart, and I know that there are some therapists who are starting to integrate astrology with their practice, which is beautiful to see. It's a beautiful pairing because, we're
know.
bringing some stuff up. If it resonates with you, you take that information to your therapist and you say, all right,
Hmm.
so A, B, C, D, and E, let's talk about it if that's within your practice. But either way, I'm someone, I've done therapy. I love therapy, big fan of
Hmm.
therapy, and could tell when it was not helping me in the ways that I
Hmm.
needed. And that's when I
Yeah.
started to learn astrology because there's something
Yeah.
about I need to see the blueprint. Like, I need to see what is going on behind the scenes so that I can better understand why I keep showing up the way that I do and
Hmm.
like change the programming, change the system a little
Hmm.
bit. So it sounds like you are really aware of how you show up. You're aware of your patterns. You're also willing to take accountability for your role, which is already so amazing because a lot of people
Hmm.
don't want to do that. It's
Yeah.
always, it's this person, it's this thing, it's that. And it's like, it's a really convenient way to keep repeating a cycle because you can't control that. You can't control the other
Hmm.
person. You can only control yourself. So instead of being like them, what
Hmm.
am I doing to attract this? To not even attract it, because sometimes we just attract everything. But why do I
Yeah.
choose this? Why is this something I continuously interact with?
Yeah. The common denominator is we, and not everybody
Right.
in the world's like that.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
that was a hard pill for me when I did my book, Let That Shit Go. It's like, it's one thing to live it, but to read it chapter after chapter after chapter, and it's like, oh shit, like this is a pattern. It's literally the
Hmm.
same story. Anyway,
Hmm.
let's get back to your chart. So, something else is your Saturn and Mercury that are squaring or together, sorry, conjunct, are also squaring your Capricorn moon. Now, in general, Capricorn moon would tell me that mom was a bit emotionally detached, maybe a little
Hmm.
hard, not very warm with you. We talked a little bit about mom. But with this play, again, there's like that emotional suppression that can come up with communication, that
Hmm.
duty bound energy, like with relationships. So, relationships are not just a relationship, it's like you feel obligated, it's a duty to fulfill, again, work in some way.
Hmm.
And with the Capricorn moon, because again, the moon is our unconscious, it's our relationship to our emotions. And Capricorn energy, which I know very well, biggest fear for Capricorn energy, emotional vulnerability. So the
Hmm.
moon is not exactly comfortable in Capricorn because
Hmm.
now it has to be reserved. It has to be very disciplined and cautious in a way that may not feel natural. The moon is fluctuating. It changes every couple days. Emotions change all the time. And so with that Capricorn energy can bring some restriction when it comes to
Hmm.
that emotion. It
Yeah.
can also create like that seriousness in relationships that makes you feel like, why can't I just enjoy it and have that joy versus and playful energy versus
Hmm.
this feeling like another freaking obstacle course that I need to get
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, something that's beautiful about this, though, is you do have a lot of like a sense of responsibility when it comes to love. And I think
Mhm.
that's also a teaching factor for the people that you draw in because I mean, I don't know, but I don't know that they experience that a lot. And I think the responsibility that you bring to love because of the virtue that it is and the way that you experience it and practice it is admirable to them in that way.
Mhm.
And this can come at the expense of your own personal happiness. So
Mhm.
again, it's finding that balance of yes, love is a responsibility. When you are fully committed and you are in it, it is. It's you have to be responsible with it because it's fragile and it's important. And that sense of responsibility and duty, you don't have to sign up for it if it doesn't feel aligned for you and if it's not being reciprocated. That energy that you put in, you deserve to feel as well. So
Yeah,
that is,
I feel like like n without malicious intent, I love bomb everybody
mm,
without that malicious intent, and that's for me what I feel like love is supposed to be. And everybody, including friendships, like the best time that they've ever had was when I was in their life. It's
mm,
always like that's the most warmth I've ever felt. That's the most love I've ever felt. Um, and I feel like I do it unintentionally. I just kind of love bomb whoever's in my life. And I don't know, maybe that's an unhealthy way, but I never really got a measure myself of love when I was a kid, so I don't know how much is appropriate. So I'm just like, I
yeah.
love you.
Yeah, I
Here's
know.
everything. I'm
Well,
sorry, I just did.
especially, it's okay. We're spitting.
Yeah.
There's so much emphasis. We're spitting. No, this is, to me, that makes sense because it also feels like when we're talking about all this rigidity and restriction, you didn't feel like you could express your love for most of your life. You did have to
Yeah.
bottle it up. So when you are
Yeah.
in a position where you feel safe enough with someone that brings that out in you, it's almost like the little kid in you is just so
Hmm.
excited that it's like, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love you. You're the best. I like can't get
Yeah.
enough of you, and I want to
Here's
spend every
everything.
second
I'm
with
gonna
you.
get you Starbucks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And again, I think it's nowadays everything's like, oh my gosh, red flag, red flag, red flag. And yes, sure, we want to be conscious and cautious. But again, sometimes it is just the child within us, that innocence within us that's like, oh my gosh, finally, like I have been
Hmm.
bubbling over with this and I'm so excited that I get to experience it and share it.
Hmm.
And part of that lesson too is that was always there and you can experience that with yourself. You take
Yeah.
yourself out on a cute date, you get dressed up, you go to a museum, you get your
Hmm.
coffee, you do whatever it is that you want to do. And again, I'm not going to say like that's the be all end all because it's different when it's with another person. What I am
Hmm.
saying is sometimes we just have to temper it a little bit when we are
Hmm.
not yet certain that this
Hmm.
is a healthy, aligned, grounded, reciprocal relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know we're almost at time, but I do want to talk about your Chiron in Taurus in your first
Hmm.
house because I do equal house system. Well, either way, it would have been in your first house, but it's in your first house opposing that Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio in the seventh house, which is also conjunct your Uranus. So that alone would tell me like transformation, perhaps unconventional relationships, sudden upheaval. But again, these are like really deep shadow lessons for you. When it comes to partnership, it almost like invokes and activates your power in some way, but not necessarily always in the easiest ways. But there is
Hmm.
something about that energy that awakens for you. Now, with it playing with your Chiron and Taurus and them opposing each other, this can bring up some self worth wounds because of the Chiron in Taurus and with it in the first house of self and identity, even body, fear of rejection, battling shame of some kind with relationships because Chiron in the first house. And are you familiar with Chiron?
I know that that's kind of um that my placement is why I'm, I guess, alone all the time, like the lone warrior or something like that. I don't know very much about it though.
Yeah, Chiron
So,
is, it's actually a healer archetype, but it is the greatest wound that we come into this lifetime with. And if we are willing to sort of get into the nitty gritty and heal that placement, you become a master of it. And so it's like the student becoming the teacher through these initiations and activations. And so your Chiron in the first house can create a deep wound around self worth and your personal value. And I think we've kind of seen that throughout of always prioritizing and emphasizing the other versus yourself.
mhm.
So there also may be a strong desire to be seen as worthy in relationships, which ties
Mhm.
into you doing all the duty, the responsibility, the stuff. Because again, there may be an unconscious belief that I am only valuable by what I can bring to the table in regards to A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
So, yes, of course, you want the best for the people you care about. You want to watch out for them, all of these other things. But you grew up learning my value is in how I can handle these difficult situations, the fixer role. So, you may
Mhm.
place that worthiness of yours in I'm only valuable when I can fix a problem. And
Or bring
so,
something to the table, or
right,
bring
exactly.
some value of some sort. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what leads to overcompensating and that people pleasing. So,
Mhm.
with it opposing that Lilith and Scorpio, there might be hidden or suppressed fears when it comes to rejection, betrayal, or being too much.
Mhm.
There can also be this rebellious side when it comes to love and kind of battling that need for approval. So it's like, I want that relationship, I want that, but then I also don't want it because I don't want to feel like that's important or that's what I need to feel validated or have this need for approval. But again, this can lead to attracting partners who then challenge that for you. So they either
Mhm.
reject you or they betray you or they challenge your sense of worthiness because what they're
Mhm.
actually doing, because again, yes, you are probably karma for a lot of people, but they are
Mhm.
also teaching you something like we talked about earlier. And sometimes those lessons are not cute. And it comes in the form of you recognizing, oh, they are challenging this because I need to remember that I am worthy of love without
Mhm.
having to prove myself, without having to constantly fix. My value is not in what I do, it's just in who I am. And who I am is fluctuating. It's someone, whoever I choose to be right now. Like it's just innate, that deserving that validation. And so you attract this because they're forcing you to recognize the unconscious beliefs that may be
Mhm.
lingering of, oh, I'm only going to find someone like I need to be able to fix their problems. I need to be able to solve whatever. I need to be able to see ahead of like it's putting yourself unconsciously in that therapist sort of fixer healer role
Mhm.
because that's where you feel validated. This
Mhm.
helps you feel good about yourself. And of course, sure, but if that's not what they want, if that's not a job that you are doing for someone, because again, this is a partnership. And
Mhm.
when we come in with that sort of identity or role, sometimes without realizing it, because we feel like, yes, this is out of the purest intentions, we immediately place a power dynamic because it's like, well, I know what's going on and I'm now your, oracle that is telling you what to do and telling you all these different things because again, I feel better and I feel
Mhm.
safer in the fact that if I can do this for you, you will see my value and you will not leave.
Mhm. Mhm.
But they're like, I'm just trying to date. So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow because that's something I've definitely noticed in
yeah.
relationships. Yeah. The
Yeah.
feeling of of bringing something of value to them. Um, and if it's not something that they want, it's automatically like, mind your business, you know?
Yeah. And
You know?
again, it can be hard because if all you've ever known is conditional love,
Mm-hmm.
meaning I love you if or when, then you learned, okay, well, in order to receive love, I have to show up this way. But then you resent it because you don't get to just be yourself and you don't get to just enjoy it. And instead, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes the job, it becomes a duty, it becomes an obligation. And then they become your patient, your whatever, your client. And so it's in balance, and that's why you have so much Libra energy, is you're trying to find that balance with partnership, but that also requires you to recognize that the fear of abandonment that might be coming up, the fear of not being enough that might be coming up, the partners who trigger those deep insecurities or reinforce those sort of beliefs that come through, so that you can remember and have that radical self acceptance through that shadow work, that I don't need that validation. I'm worthy of love just for existing. I have so many beautiful qualities of mine that I am waiting to share with someone. And sometimes the only person that's holding you back from doing that is you, because you show up innately in this energy because that's all you know. And again, if you are fearful of them leaving, them feeling like you're too much or not enough or something, like it's again, all the mental activity of trying to shapeshift into whatever you think they want or need from you in order to be loved, then you don't get to just be in the moment, be present, be yourself.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go through some things we talked about. So, love and power struggles, the intensity, the control, transformation. These are big themes for you when it comes to dating. That vulnerability is going to be key. So, desiring that deep intimacy is a beautiful thing, but again, it's not going to happen if you resist your own emotional openness. And we talked about how it's a simmer, not a okay, I'm just going to put it away because I don't want to deal with it right now.
Mhm.
No, deal with it right now. And it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be right now, but like
Uh,
let yourself process, take the time that you need. But if it's something important to you that makes you feel like I need to stand up for myself, again, that Aries energy, you got it in you. You just got to remember
mhm.
it. And so it's moving through that fear of how are they going to react? How are they? Because again, you're focused on them. They are an
Mhm.
adult, they can handle it. You need
Yeah.
you right now. You need someone to speak up for you. You need someone to have your back. You need to stand up for yourself.
Mhm.
Releasing that fear of emotional vulnerability, and remembering, love doesn't have to be a battlefield. It doesn't have to be like this constant sort of maze that I'm working through in this really intense experience. Embracing that self worth without that external validation piece. So that Chiron and Taurus in the first house, like really allowing yourself to find rituals and practices that help you remember that deep self acceptance. And then again, balancing your independence with that emotional connection. So you don't have to lose yourself and lose your autonomy, which I think is a fear, like a unconscious fear, because I think you
Mhm.
lost your autonomy from a young age. And
Mhm.
so it's almost like I want this deep connection, but I also fear being swallowed whole by it and losing myself, which is interestingly a common theme with people on this series. And so it's finding the balance between having this deep connection and this experience of partnership while knowing that it doesn't have to come at the cost of myself. In
Yeah.
fact, the right relationships for me boost this part of me, my individuality, my confidence, my ability to be myself. That's how you know that you're in aligned relationships, whether it's romantic, platonic, or otherwise, is they want more of you. They don't want the
Mhm.
teacher, the healer, the fixer, the whatever. They love those aspects of you because they're not going to go away. And when
Mhm.
they have a problem, they know, oh, I'm calling Geraldine. She'll know what to do. but
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to need you to be their parent, their therapist, their counselor, their whatever, because they're adults and they will take care of
Mm-hmm.
themselves. Should they need your help, they will tell you, but they just want to enjoy you. And then
Yeah.
you allow yourself to receive that, knowing that why wouldn't someone enjoy me? I'm a great time.
Yeah.
I'm a good person. So I know we touched on all kinds of stuff. So I want to check in and see how you're feeling, what's coming up. Talk to me.
No, yeah, definitely everything. It just kind of opened my eyes. I I guess that I project a lot of things onto other people. And I guess that's where the people pleasing comes in because I want to match their energy. Whatever I'm projecting onto them, I kind of want to match it and like, oh yeah, no, I could do that too. And then I guess that's where I take on then I quickly realize that they are not who I projected onto them. And then that's where I kind of step into the fixer or the counselor because then they're just like, I think I'm matching their energy, but all along, they're trying to keep up with mine, I guess. And and that's kind of where and it's me, like you said, me just trying to prove myself to, yeah, I could, be this person or I and thinking that they're on that level, and they're not, they're just kind of trying to keep up with me. So I guess it's a lesson of me not, trying to prove myself to other people because that's definitely a pattern that I wasn't aware of me always trying to prove myself.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where I'm running into a lot of problems is me trying to prove myself, but then at the same time I'm alienating whoever is in my life because it almost comes off to them as um like a show off or I'll never meet her level. So, it
Mm.
then that's where like problems arise.
So that's why you match energy, but you're really
Yeah,
sometimes dimming yourself down.
yeah.
And so it's not about matching energy. You just come in with wherever your energy is at and trust and know that the people who want to be in your life will either see where you're at and raise their energy to meet you. Or if you meet someone who you're like, oh shit, I might need to step my game up a little bit, let them
Mm-hmm.
inspire and motivate you because
Mm-hmm.
you're clearly capable. You're capable
Mm-hmm.
of doing whatever you want to do. You have a very strong mindset. You're very consistent. You're responsible. You have amazing work ethic. Everyone else sees it in you. So you have nothing to prove. The only
Yeah.
one that is making you believe that is you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can free yourself from that because it's not always true what we tell ourselves. And that might be one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Well, thank you. I
Thank
really
you. That
appreciate you.
that was wonderful. Made
Thank you. Thank you. I
me
really
realize a
appreciate
lot
it.
of things.
Good, good. That's my
Mm-hmm.
intention with this. These are normally private sessions, and so I'm always
Mm-hmm.
grateful for people like you who are willing to be vulnerable and open and let me read your chart openly in this way because I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you already you are not alone in anything that we talked about. And it's comforting when we hear these stories because it can feel like a very isolating experience. And then we think something's wrong with me and did it. And it's like, no, people just don't talk about it openly. And so
Yeah.
I really commend you and thank you for being open to doing this and being open with everything that we talked about and also for trusting me with
Mhm.
my interpretations and sharing what I got from your chart. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I'm excited. If this reading could help anybody else out, that would be good. That'd be
Yes.
good too.
We are, and it's funny because before our session, I put on I don't always wear this necklace, but I decided to wear it
Mhm.
today, and it's the World card in tarot. And
Mhm.
so I really do feel for you like this is the end of a long cycle and a new beginning. There's a sense of completion here. So if I was able to help facilitate that in any way, then what an honor and privilege. And I look
Mhm.
forward to witnessing whatever is next for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My
It was
pleasure.
really nice meeting you.
Likewise. Take care.
And there you have it. As you saw in Geraldine's session, there was so much wisdom and knowledge about her unconscious patterns, beliefs, even childhood dynamics and relationships that were affecting her to this day when it came to her partnerships. And this is what I love about astrology. It's helped me on my personal journey. If you read my book, Let That Shit Go, A Journey to Forgiveness, Healing, and Understanding Love, then you know I was dating the same person in different bodies. I was experiencing the same lesson over and over and over again. And it wasn't until I really started to dive into my personal astrology that I started to better understand why I was facing these lessons. And that's what I'm striving to do with you. So thank you for watching. If I said a lot of words that you didn't understand, that's okay. If you're curious to learn more, get my Astro Basics ebook linked below. You can also always book a session with me and we can look at your personal chart together and see what's lurking in the shadows of your astrology. And please, please, please like, comment, subscribe, show some support for the series. And I hope to see you again for the next episode of Shadows of the Heart.